What's up, everybody? Gonna do a quick breakdown on rangebreaker. I'm gonna give a little kind of my explanation on how I view ranges and how I play them, and just the basic concept of ranges. And how rangebreaker, right, is a tool that Max himself uses a lot, especially if you listen to the morning show. You'll hear him say rangebreaker quite a bit. So here we go. So rangebreaker is very simple. It's very self-explanatory. There's a lot of customizations you can make. I usually keep it on default. I like to just play with the regular settings, and it is a very basic concept, right? Ranges is an accumulation of price getting stuck in an area, in a zone. So it's testing back and forth without it making a full move. And this usually happens after a move occurs. So usually the market does two things, right? Trends, ranges, and trends. So once there's a pause in the trend, that's where you tend to see the ranges. I have variations of it. Obviously, you know the quantum ranges that I play, and here are the max ranges that he loves to play. And rangebreaker plots them down for you. Okay. So obviously, like any strategy, any kind of setup, right, it's gonna get mixed results depending on the criteria you're looking at. But I'm gonna give you kind of like how I tend to play these out and how I look for setups around these, and how you can avoid potential fake outs and just be cautious with your entries. So here is a little bit historic pushback. I went back to a random date just to kind of show you, right, what I look for or how to potentially find setups around these. The rangebreaker does provide signals if you like to have those set. So, if you go to your settings, right, you have your multiple setting options. I keep it on default. You can enable breakout signals. You can enable confirm breakouts with volume spikes if you want. I keep that off myself. You could do reversal. You could do all sorts of stuff with it. You could customize it to your liking and your style. You can mess around with it. I keep everything default. In here in presets, right, you have other options. You can have tight ranges where it does minimize how many ranges, right, you get to see. Tends to be less noise and more potential. Okay, but again, right, you're gonna see little ones where they tend to, not give you a big move but a little move. And this is how I tend to use it. I'm going to show you guys how I use it and how I avoid, right, where I don't play tight ranges too much. You got swing trade options. You got option selling, options for any option sellers out there that you can use to kind of modify what style you want to play with and what kind of trading you do. Again, right, I trade futures. I'm not very familiar with option selling just yet. That's something I do want to get into. I'm not a swing trader. Everyone knows me as a scalper. So I like to have normal ranges. Gives me a lot of potential opportunity for trades. Okay. Everything else is default. Like I said, I don't mess around with anything else. So I just keep this as is. I did put the historical box as 250, so you can see more. The default on this is 25. So you will see less, but if you want to see further back, right, if you're back testing or anything like that, you can up this number and put it as high. I don't know how high it can go, but I put it at 50. And it gave me 50 boxes to look back on. Now, the basic concept of ranges, if you understand my style, I'm going to be an R guy, a break and retest guy. You can play it two ways, okay? We did provide midlines, so you can kind of use the midline of the range boxes as potential, right, areas for stop or retest or whatever you're looking at. But you're going to see an initial break, right, where that candle closes right below the box, gives you your signal. You immediately get a retest at center, right? You can look at this in a couple different setup ways, right? If you're looking at your risk to reward, right, the midline of box, obviously this is very, very big range box, so your risk is going to be a little hefty if you're looking at, right, midline of box. That's about 15 points you're risking. I'm a 1-to-1 guy, so I like to go for 1-to-1 at first. Okay, if you're using the whole box in itself, right, a little riskier, 26.7, right, you're looking for your entry around the break or the retest. Do you get your 1-to-1 here? Ooh, barely. You barely got it, right? You barely get your 1-to-1 here. So that's a way to play it, right? Again, you can mess around with it however you like. You can hold for continuations when you see box after box for pushes up, but this is just a general rule. You're looking for that break, that little pullback, and you want that area to hold, and then you want it to push up. You had another range form shortly after, and then look where you had a break. Okay, now here's like an example of how I avoid failed breakouts, right, out of the ranges is this range that it previously broke out of, right, that it got stuck in, now pushed up, right? Now this range that it formed is trying to push down, but it's fighting this range. So I'm not going to take a short off that box, knowing that we have to fight through this box here, right? If you zoom out, the previous box here already got played through both ways. So for me, this box is kind of invalidated. So now I'm just focusing on this one. Obviously, another one popped up. If I'm pushing down, right, I need this one to break before there's a potential move, right? So you can see how this box got respected, right? And if you played, right, if you played that break, oops, wrong direction. If you played the, short off of this, it was going to be a very tight and probably a very, let's see if it even gave it to you. Let's see if we use sauce box. Sorry about that. Let's see if we use midline. If you got a pretty good retest entry here, you might have gotten it before you got stopped out. You might have gotten your 1-to-1 quick scalp right there, right? Gave you a little bit of something, but again, it's very dangerous because you're playing against that boy right there, right? That box that formed over here, right? Here, this breakout didn't really give you a full-blown retest, but it gave you a little tap over here. You just want that thing to hold, right? Midline, you could use midline, you could use the whole box itself, right? Depends on what your risk is. And you can see that led to a pretty decent play, 26.5 points. New box formed, came back, right? This could have been a new play. You could have had a runner, gotten trailed out here. And then once it bulldozed through this range, right? Now you had the same thing. Like the general idea for me, once it breaks both sides, this box becomes obsolete. So broke both sides. This box becomes a little bit obsolete to me, right? But again, you can still use these as gauges, where there was a failed push up, or I'm sorry, a failed push down over here. So you see there's another range. Now you have a potential drop opportunity. This to me wouldn't be such a big deal anymore because again, we broke both sides of it. So I'm not really looking at this anymore. And then we had another opportunity over here. So I have room here. If I'm looking at this, right, this is gone because for me, this broke both sides. I have potential room here to test potential swing point or, any kind of market structure you might want to look at. And again, right, you see the break, gave you a little bit of a push up retest, and then gave you a nice little 25-point pull down. And then you had another box formed later, right? You had another box that formed later. And then again, right, I'm going to be careful with this one. Why? Because we just broke down below this one. And now we're going to be fighting that guy. Okay, so we're going to be fighting this one. And then same idea, right? This box over here is still a challenge zone, okay? So let me put a little line right here. All right, look at that, right? Oh, look, we kind of bounced really close to it. So you want to be careful when you're playing against any ranges. So you're going to see them as, right, potential support zones if they're below, potential resistance points if they're above. So as you can see over here where you got trapped for a little bit, right? You got that push, you got that rejection, you got pulled down, and then you got pushed up. And then once this broke right back through, right, you had a full-blown test of that top area, tried to break, failed, formed another range, and look where this range is. You can see these patterns over and over and over again. Right? It's almost like reading different forms of market structure. And you can see where this breaks, right? This failed to break, pulled back in, formed another range, and there's another little, right, box breakout that you had potential room to that one, another scalp opportunity. And if you guys know me, right, I look for any scalp opportunities. And I collect as I go, right? There's a little 15-point trade right there, risking 10 and so on and so forth. And then as they get tighter and you see more and more accumulation, that's where you want to be careful. You want to kind of ease up because you have to understand that this is where the market can get trapped. And once it starts to get trapped, you got a lot of potentials for being faked out, okay? So as it starts to bounce back and forth, you see all these ranges accumulating over here. And slowly but surely, right, it fails to fully break out of this guy, forms another range, starts to break down, forms another range, starts to break everything that it had before, right? This one already broke through to the bottom side. This one held, pushed up to the top. Now you start to see everything start to break. All those previous range boxes that we're holding now start to break, right? So you start seeing this one break, and you can kind of see what occurs. Right, there's a break of this one, break of that box. You can see how it still respected this one over here for a little bit, right? So a little bit of a bounce, pushed up. Now it's failing to break back through this one. And you can see where the little fight happens. And then all of a sudden you start seeing, right, a little break over below this one, right? That guy over here did break before. Then the next one would have been all the way down here. Right, so you did have this over here, this top that was holding pretty well. then you had a big bleed through, then you had this this bottom over here, and you see that bleed through pushed up real quick again, right? You can go back as far as you want, mark up boxes, right? This is just how I view them. You don't have to do this. You can make this your own style, right? But you kind of see the idea, right? You kind of see the idea. There's just an arsenal of setups you can mess with this. Whoops, wrong direction again. And you can, again, modify this to your style. There's so many ways to view these, right? You can use, like, again, right, midline, the whole box, make it less risky, more risky, right? No risk, no Rari is the saying, right? So there's so many options for how to play these, right? Midline, right? You would have gotten potentially stopped out. Let's see if you got it. You would have gotten your 1-to-1. Yes, you would have gotten your 1-to-1, even if you used midline before it popped up, and probably took out your runner on this pop up, only for it to continue. You could re-enter it. Obviously, it stays below. You could re-enter. That's up to you guys at that point, right? And then you see another play over here, same idea, right? And that's just a general idea. It's very simple, very, very self-explanatory, right? You could use midline, you could use top, and you can see the play that played out. You could play these to market structure points. You could play these to other potential range boxes where there could be a bounce, and so on and so forth, and then vice versa, right? So you start seeing these break to the opposite side. So you'll see how it resisted here at first, and then you had a new one, broke above, showed some resistance, then a new one, broke above, continued, and it flipped every single box that was previously holding. It started to flip, whoa, excuse me, slowly but surely. All right, you can see the pullbacks, and that's range breaker. It's very basic. It's very, very simple to play these and to look for them. It's up to you, right, to read the charts and to decide, is this a safe place to potentially take a trade, right? You see this break below, you see this break to the top side, but what are you fighting? You're fighting that guy. You see another one here, right? This one did play out, but you have to be a little bit patient because you know you're fighting a couple of range boxes, right? Right over here and right over here, that are kind of holding it down a little bit, right? This box did break both sides, so this one kind of became obsolete, and then this one was the one that you're kind of looking at, right? But you can still see where the price reacts when it re-breaks it, right? You can see where the little break and retest and push, a little break and retest and push, right? And then it gets trapped up here, and look at all these ranges, right? Look at all these ranges. Now this area is dangerous, right? There's not a whole lot of room for it to start moving, and it gets super trapped until it can start to break back below all these previously unbroken zones. And that is the basic concept, okay? That is the basic concept of range breaker. So, understand your risk, understand what you're up against, understand what your sizing is going to be, and you should be able to find a lot of decent plays using the basic concept of ranges. And range breaker is something that Max uses on the daily. He is always, talking about range breaker in the morning show, and it gives you some amazing setups. Amazing setups, right? It does allow you to be patient with your setups and be picky with them as well. So I hope this helped some of you range breaker traders out there. I know there's a bunch of you. We have, we've been neglecting the video for range breaker, but I decided, it's time. I waited way too long to make one, and it's just so basic. It's very basic again, right? And this has been a tool I've seen a lot of MOT traders abuse and get some great payouts with. And I hope that this is something that many of you as well can use as a great confluence of some sort for any other, trading system that you may use, MVG, Quantum, PHP, P2P, whatever it is. Right, you can pair it up with anything. Like I said, this is a great tool to use. I hope you guys tune into the morning show, Power Hour, Happy Hour, and the London show, where you can kind of see all our styles. Right, we tend to use different pairings of the indicators, and you get to see what we do. If you're interested, please check out maxoptionstrading.com. You got all your indicator needs in there, as well as coaching from our traders, or the courses are also available in there. You also get to collect some max bucks and stuff like that as you make purchases that you can use towards other things. So it's a really cool website to check out, and also check out our Discord. Again, you should be able to join us from the maxoptionstrading.com so you can participate in every one of our shows. We do lots of giveaways, and we have a lot of fun. So please like, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that stuff, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace out.